Hey guys, I am so glad to be back for a video. I haven't made one in like a month and a half, and I've been wanting to do some stuff over the summer and just not been able to do it so far, but there is some stuff in development. But today, we have a guest on the show, Taylor J. Williams, who is a friend of mine, and we actually recorded a video, this same video, a few months ago, and we didn't quite deem it good enough exactly to post, because we were like, well, there were a lot of tangents in our discussion and stuff, but before we even decided whether we wanted to post it or not, it kind of became out of date, and so we were like, well, if we're going to do it again, we just need to re-record the whole thing. So, I have him today. What's up, Taylor? I don't know how to introduce the person.
Yeah, I don't know how these things usually go.
Briefly, like, I don't know, touch on what your channel is about.
Alright, well, I used to make video essays. I haven't given up on video essays, but I just haven't made them in a while. I do reviews. Lately I've just been sort of ranting about stuff that I feel is kind of relatable about, you know, what goes on when we watch movies, and some of the like my most recent video is about, you know, how we react to the word fine when someone describes something that we like, and so I want to make more videos like that. I think that's probably the direction my channel will be going in, but I'll keep doing reviews. Yeah, that's essentially my main whatever.
That's the mission statement.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I found Taylor, I'm trying to remember, yeah, I found him through the video where he talked about video essays, a few months ago, where he basically discussed how he liked making video essays and that was kind of his thing, but at the same time, he didn't want to contribute to this hive mind kind of culture that everyone was doing the exact same style of video essay and all this kind of stuff. And so I thought that video was really great, and it was actually one of the cases where, like, it took the words right out of my mouth, and I was considering making a video about that subject, and then I was like, oh, he's got me covered, I'll just share this on Twitter. So, that was cool. So today, we wanted to talk about, what our original video had been about, to some degree, was video essays and the video essay culture on YouTube, which is to say the videos people make about film, analyzing it and stuff. And today we might kind of broaden that subject a little bit, just to more of film, YouTube in general, but that's kind of what we wanted to talk about. I think this is going to be kind of unscripted, off the record, I don't know what the term is, and we'll just talk like normal people, not like we're on a show, hopefully. So yeah, I'm turning from my camera to look at you now, and now we're having a conversation.
Yeah, one of the things, like the first video mostly consisted of us sort of talking about the shortcomings and some of the mistakes and cliches with video essays, and that's sort of elaborating on some of the stuff I talked about in my video. But there have been some developments in the people have become a lot more conscious of video essays as a medium and their tropes and stuff. And so a lot more developments have occurred since our shooting that video. So for instance, my video was about, you know, again, things that make all the video essays blend together, some common mistakes, and basically the point of the video was me pointing out what's bad about bad video essays and how to fix that. But some developments that have occurred recently, a lot of people, I think, sort of interpreted that as me being anti-video essays as a medium, and a lot of people, you know, agree with that interpretation, and so there are a lot of people who are just anti-video essay, whereas my video was anti-bad video essay.
Right, as is the case with everything, people take something that's a good idea and they take it to the extreme, of course.
Right.
I mean, yeah, I feel like, especially since I think you've contributed to it, and I think several other people have, I do think that more people have become video essay conscious to a degree, whatever that means. Video essay woke, I don't know. But like, I have seen more parodies of video essays as of late. I've seen more videos like yours discussing kind of the shortcomings of them, and I think I've seen more people kind of evolving into their own voice, which is a good thing. I mean, that's kind of what you and I had talked about in our first video, that we wanted to see people do more of, you know?
Well, one of the big issues people had with my video was they were sort of seeing it as me saying that all video essays had to be objective, objective, and if it wasn't subjective, then it wasn't a video essay. And so I got all these comments saying an essay is just a thesis and support, or an argument and support, which is true. And I wasn't saying that it wasn't. I was more talking about how video essays are sort of, or a lot of opinion pieces are marketed as something that they're not. Like, they're marketed as educational tools as opposed to someone's opinion. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with an opinion piece. That's,
in fact, you and I mean, in our video, we kind of talked about we wanted more opinion pieces. We just wanted, like, them to be acknowledged as opinion pieces, right? Rather than, like, someone pretending to be an intellectual and, like, stating facts when, in fact, it's just, I like this movie and here's why, you know?
Exactly. And actually something I've noticed is a lot of people are sort of, going a little too far with the whole objective versus subjective thing, to the point where if if you make, like, objective points about a film, they'll sort of be discounted because they because of the person enjoyed the film or whatever. And obviously, if there are aspects of a film that make you enjoy it and make those objective detail or mistakes forgivable, then that's fine. But, you know, when I watch a film and, you know, something stands out as bad to me, like a bad line or a poorly directed scene or whatever, that may be an objective factor, but it still, you know, affects my subjective experience with the film.
Well, right, I think I've used this analogy. It's not really an analogy, it's just a term before, which is I think that the quality of a film is semi-objective. It's definitely not totally objective, or else we'd all agree. But the quality of a film, there are some objective elements to it, but, like, whether a film works for you is totally subjective. You can point out the objective flaws of, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a bad movie I like. You can point out the objective flaws of Now You See Me all day. I mean, it's kind of a mess, but I really like that movie. It's loads of fun, and it's one of my favorite kind of blockbusters in the past few years. And that's not to say that I don't accept the fact that it has flaws. I totally do. I mean, you know, but I think it works despite those flaws, at least for me. And that's where the subjectivity kind of comes in, you know?
Right, and it's sort of a thin line or a balancing act or whatever, because, you know, that's a very applicable, mindset. Most of my favorite films are not objective masterpieces, but I still like them more than objectively better made films for whatever other reason. And then, of course, you have on the other end, you know, like, if you watch a scene and the audio is poorly dubbed and the people are out of focus, you know, that's gonna sort of come between you and that subjective whatever. So objective.
But even then, even with stuff like that, you know, there are things that sometimes make those things forgivable. Like if you're watching a student film, you know, like if you put a student film in theaters, you put my film in theaters or one of yours in theaters, they're probably not going to look very good on a giant screen. The audio is not going to sound great in a big theater. And, you know, the acting probably won't be as great as the movie in the theater next door or whatever. But they are student films, and so they're held to a different standard, you know? And so you can kind of, at times, ignore shoddy elements when you know that there's a reason why they're there or something, if that makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah. So anyway, back to video essays.
Back to video essays.
What is it? Yeah, I think a lot of people have started to abandon the every frame a painting style, because people kind of went crazy with it from like 2014 to early this year, late last year. I think toward the end of 2017 is when people realized that, or when the general public realized that these are all essentially the same video. Obviously there were people who sort of had that thought beforehand, but the general trend started around there. And so people are changing up their style. I think the biggest thing to keep in mind is whether it sounds obvious, but the intention of the video. So like something like Every Frame a Painting, it was made to educate. And so it's like a mini film lesson. And then a lot of these other videos are, why this movie is good. And it's not necessarily educational. They may bring in ideas of film theory, but it's essentially just a review.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed, especially even since we made our video saying this should happen, and then that wasn't even released, so we had no impact on this. But I have noticed more people defining themselves based on things that, like starting to realize that their opinion is subjective and defining their channel based on their identity rather than objective facts, and I'm some sort of intellectual, educational person, And there's nothing wrong with being that, Like, we need those people. We needed Every Frame a Painting. We need Nerdwriter, that kind of stuff. But I think almost we have enough of them right now. And I think if video essays will continue to evolve as a genre, we just need to hear lots of different voices and people who allow themselves to be a different voice instead of just trying to imitate all the other ones. So like an example for me would be my friend Karsten Runquist. He's got a video essay channel, and he's had really good stuff from the start. Like it's been really great since he started. But I do think that if you compare his videos now to his videos, say 6 months ago or so, like they feel a lot more personal, and his identity and voice have seeped into them way more. Like the videos in his start were well made and well researched and stuff, but they did kind of just feel like it's a video essay, it's that formula, and I don't think he'd have his feelings hurt by me saying that. I think he probably agrees. And again, they were good, but they were just that kind of formula. But now they've evolved to the point where he includes a lot more like sarcasm in the videos, even with facts and stuff. He includes kind of jokey, subjective stuff, and he just does videos about like why he loves things, and not just educating you, but just talking about things that he's passionate about, and seeing if he can connect that emotion to you. So I've loved that kind of evolution to watch it, come upon it.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that. I subscribed to him not too long ago. I had seen some of his videos, but yeah, it's a lot more my thoughts on this movie, how this, and I think, that's sort of the best way for this kind of content to evolve, because, there's only so much you can vary when making, the every frame style video essay. But if you market your personality, everyone's different from each other. People are going to like some people more than other people. And at that point, it's more about, what person they find more interesting rather than whose lesson they find more insightful. And obviously there's, a lot of value to be taken away from, comparing how insightful some people are. But I think more opinion-based stuff, because I like to compare movies to music a lot. And so with music, you've got frequencies, and it's a very mathematical art form.
Yeah.
It's all how certain frequencies relate to each other, certain chords and cadences, and it's all numbers when you break it down. But with film, it's a lot more, psychology and opinions and how it makes it. It's a lot less concrete.
Right.
And so when you try to have these concrete video essays, they're not necessarily applicable. And again, when they're portrayed as a concrete fact, that becomes a problem, because it's not a fact, and there are many exceptions and people who disagree. But if it's marketed as an opinion, then someone who disagrees will just see it and be like, okay, that's fine. That's just how this person feels. And it's not the same as how I feel.
Well, and even with music, like you could, if there was some sort of mathematical formula that was considered like the best song, like here's how you make the best song, you include this many notes and you do whatever, that wouldn't guarantee that it would emotionally move people, like even the mathematically most complicated stuff or whatever in music doesn't move people the same way, and sometimes simpler things move people, or sometimes even more complicated things move people, because that's an entirely subjective thing as well. I think that's a good comparison. Have you noticed, like, I feel like, well, I have a few different things I was going to go on a tangent on. One of the things I was going to touch on was we are talking about how people should be more subjective with their opinions and acknowledge that what they're saying is their opinion. One of the complaints I've heard about that, you'll see comments a lot on different video essays and reviews and stuff where people go, well, that's just your opinion, man, or whatever. And it's like, well, yeah, that's my opinion. That should be, implied in the fact that I'm even making a video at all. Yeah, duh, this is my opinion, but how do you think people should approach acknowledging that it's their opinion, or should that be an attitude, like state of mind, rather than just being like, before everything they say, and by the way, this is my opinion, just my opinion, don't get offended, that kind of thing. Like, I don't know, what kind of attitude would that be?
Yeah, I've been a lot more self-conscious about what I say in my videos, and like I'll pause and be like, now this is just how I feel, and if you feel differently, that's perfectly fine. Obviously, the more I do that, the more tiresome it's gonna get, and a lot of people have said, like, in my video, I'll say this movie is bad, this movie is good, whatever. This is a good actor, this is a bad director. And even though the words good and bad are objective words, it's sort of implied when you watch their videos that they mean it in their opinion. And so I guess maybe a lot of people just don't realize that it's implied that way. But
yeah. What do you think about ever since, especially with The Last Jedi, which is obviously the most controversial film ever released, ever. I've noticed more of an influx of videos on YouTube that are like, just, angry rants. Like I think that's part of why video essays have died down, I think, is more people have discovered that they can just make angry rants about things and they'll get loads of views, because if you write,
oh my God,
blank is the worst movie I've ever seen in the title, then you get loads of views.
It's insane. They get like 500,000 views for making like a 12-minute video on why they didn't like the Last Jedi, but they put the title in all caps. The Last Jedi ruined Star Wars. Side note, I don't know like what happened, but I feel like 3 different people posted a The Last Jedi video in the same day.
Oh, they did, yeah, today.
Yeah, like Austin McConnell, Just Right, and Lessons from the Screenplay, like out of nowhere.
It's been good. I enjoyed all 3 of them.
I haven't watched any of them yet, but I plan to.
Yeah, I feel like in general, I'm just not a fan of all these so-called movie critics that, and don't take that as me being like, oh, so-called movie critic, but these people who claim to be like the most educated and want to talk down to you if you liked a certain thing, who are defined by the things that make them angry and are defined by anger and hatred of bad movies and stuff. And like, I do think it can be educational and important to analyze bad movies, because, you can learn just as much from a bad film as you can from a good one. But like, I don't know. What do you think about all these channels that focus so heavily on the things that they hate?
Like YMS or...
Like YMS, yeah, probably would be. And also, an ironic note, I would include I Hate Everything in that list, right? Because, I mean, his channel is literally I Hate Everything. But the funny thing about him is that I think he's one of the more positive film reviewers on YouTube as of late.
He made a really positive review of The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah, I enjoy it to a degree. I appreciate hearing their views in like Ralph his Ralph the Movie Maker videos. They're all, targeting, movies that like we pretty much universally agree are bad movies.
Right.
A couple are not quite so unanimous. But yeah, I think a lot of people can sort of get absorbed in the persona of an angry, bitter critic, to the point where it sort of clouds their judgment. And I'm a little apprehensive to say that because, who am I to assume that they're not actually expressing how they feel about a film? But yeah, focusing on the negative aspects, it's certainly educational in many aspects, but sometimes I think it feels more like a shtick than actual criticism.
Right. Yeah. I think it's funny because you would think that that reviewing bad movies would make a film critic like appreciate the good ones all the more, but with many of them, I have noticed that it seems like the ones who review bad movies then are 10 times more nitpicky towards the ones that are competent, Like, if I watched Cool Cat Saves the Kids all day, and then I went and saw Suicide Squad, both are really terrible, but one is clearly more competently made than the other, and I think we both know which one that is, the one with the theatrical release. And yet, it seems like people who analyze bad movies almost hold them on the same level, and it's like, that seems odd to me, because you would think that you would be able to discern, like, even people calling The Last Jedi the worst movie ever, it's like, have you seen Cool Cat Saves the Kids? Have you seen The Room?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, there's definitely, that's a really good point. Like, they spend all this time just tearing apart these really bad movies, and then they go and see movies that may not be, masterpieces, but are decent, and they'll still tear them apart almost to the same degree as they tear apart those other films. And it's
right.
like, I don't know, there's a very clear distinction. Yeah.
I'm trying to think what else is far. Do you have any?
Well, I wanted to backtrack a little bit. I when we were talking about like the Every Frame of Painting and Nerdwriter, I actually he's sort of had some course correction in the past few months, because for a while he was pumping out a video a week or 3 or 4 videos a month or something like that. And people started calling him out and sort of saying his videos were starting to get a little superficial. Like he'd use a lot of buzzwords but not really say anything. I'm not gonna comment on how accurate or inaccurate that is. But he slowed down the pace of his videos. I think he was making 4 a month and now he's making 3 a month or something like that.
I think it's even less, maybe, because I haven't seen one of his videos in a long time. I mean,
yeah, same. And so I think he realized he sort of gotten this assembly line mindset where he was just, pumping out video after video almost formulaically. And so I think it's a good thing that he sort of stepped back and was like, wait a second, I need to sort of reevaluate this.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely been a pattern with video essays, especially the people who, like, almost every time I would see a new video essay channel, it'd be like, come back, we have video essays every week, or whatever. And I'm like, look, I get that you're doing, and sometimes that works, but, like, oftentimes you need more than a week to prepare a truly insightful video essay. And so, like, for me, I've totally slowed down the pacing on my videos, almost to the point where I'm a little embarrassed at this point because I need to get back on the horse. But, like, I haven't made a video in a month and a half, and I'm trying to do, I think I'm going to try and do one every 2 weeks this summer. But that's just because it's summer, so I do think a slower pace, taking your time to kind of let ideas ruminate and everything can really help. And that's not to say, like, if you make a video every week, then you're, just winging it every time or whatever. But,
right.
It can help to pace yourself out.
It definitely depends on the kind of video. Like, if you're making, like a reflection or an opinion piece or whatever, or commentary on anything, then you're probably going to put out a few, at least one a week. A lot of people, because they're just talking about how they feel about certain things, and so that's not necessarily something that has to be slowed down, but something like an every frame style video essay where it has to be as concise and airtight and like neatly presented as possible. I do think one a week is unrealistic.
Yeah.
And it kind of sucks because these people are making really high quality videos that they have to release. One a week isn't cutting it, and they have to slow down the pace. And then you've got like daily vloggers who put out a video a day. Or
reactionists who post a video every hour.
Yeah, and then it's just like they still rake in views, and it kind of sucks because I'm not gonna hate on daily vlogs just because there's an audience for it.
Yeah, and some are really well done, like Casey Neistat kind of stuff.
Right, exactly. But yeah, it's just rough because a similar amount of work goes into each, but one reaps a lot more views than the other.
Right.
Yeah. I'm trying to not necessarily do one video a week. But I'm definitely trying to release videos more frequently. I'm not gonna commit to any specific like one video every 2 weeks just because I feel like I always break those commitments. So it's just whenever I can, I'll release something.
That kind of brings me to something I was going to bring up earlier, which is I think you were talking about how hard it is to keep commitments, and that's totally the same with me. Like I've had several different eras of my channel or whatever where I'm like, I'm gonna do this segment one every week or whatever. I have there was a whole segment I wanted to do called Houston Productions 1's Film Workshop.
Right.
And I did one video in that series, and that's the only one I've ever done. I really like that video, but I've not continued it. And some of the videos that would have been Film Workshop have now been kind of converted to just normal videos or whatever. So I think one of the things that I've really, that I would stress to people would be that you should allow yourself to evolve and not like constrict yourself with certain labels and segments and certain patterns or formulas that you're going to do every week or something, because I never was able to keep any of mine. And I think you just need to, especially when you're young, allow your voice to keep growing and keep changing and keep evolving. And one of the people I think who's done that really well, especially in the past couple of years, has been Bobby Burns. I've enjoyed certain eras, for lack of a better word, of his channel more than others. What he's doing now is fine. I'm not as big a fan of it, but I have loved seeing, no matter what he's doing, how he's completely unashamed in terms of just doing something completely new. Like, I think his channel is divided into, like, Bobby Burns 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, 5.0, whatever, and it's because he realizes and acknowledges that he's constantly changing, and the style of his channel is changing as well, every time. And so I really liked that with every video, it seems like he's upping the status quo, and it seems like he's not constricting himself to a specific, type of segment every time, So that's been a really cool evolution to watch, and that kind of inspired me this year to be like, I'm not going to, this year in particular, I didn't want to do certain segments like HP1's Film Workshop or like, whatever else I've done. I don't know. I wanted to instead just do, this is a Houston Productions 1 video. That's what it is. Like, and that could be this thing, or that could be this thing, or this thing, but it's just an HP1 video, and that's all it is. And there's no constraints on what that has to be, So.
Yeah, and I mean, there are exceptions. I think Ralph has done a good job maintaining segments. He's got his Reel-It-Ins, which are just him ranting. They're like spontaneous reviews, and then he has his Ralph the Movie Maker videos, which are more scripted and researched. But yeah, Bobby Burns is another YouTuber who he was cranking out videos and he's starting to take a break. And so, yeah, I think that's a pretty common trend that people are realizing, that you can't necessarily crank out that kind of stuff that quickly.
Yeah, the other thing Bobby Burns did a while back that inspired me this year was with his, and this was sort of a short era on his channel, I think, like he quickly moved past it, but for a while he was doing movie reviews where he was like going to different places and doing stuff there. Like he has his La La Land review is really good.
Oh, yeah.
I don't totally agree with that review, but it's brilliantly edited and styled, where he's like at a playground and like in his house and stuff. It's very cinematic. Like he's basically made a short film about his review of the film. And that inspired me a lot this year, not to necessarily rip that off, but to include more quote unquote filmmaking in my videos rather than just, voiceover narration and some editing. And so with every video this year in particular, I've shown my face on camera. And I think you've done that from the start, but that's been something that I've been back and forth on. I did a lot at the beginning, but then not so much recently. And now this year I've kind of come back to doing that just because I think it provides more of a platform to do things with a camera, which is, what people who love movies should be doing more often. So.
Yeah. And even I think Bobby Burns had this segment that had one episode. It was like great movies you've never seen or something.
Oh, yeah.
He made one video and then kind of abandoned that. So, yeah, it's tough trying to start a segment and keep it going. But yeah, I guess to wrap things up, I think we're pretty much in agreement that, people who aren't necessarily qualified to make educational stuff and then marketing their opinion pieces as educational are a bit of a problem, and shouldn't necessarily stop what they're doing, but should just rebrand their opinions as opinions rather than fact. But at the same time, there are people who put out really great analysis that has educational weight to it. What are some video essays that you'd recommend or that you've been watching recently that you've liked a lot? I know we did that last time.
Yeah, and some of it's the same as last time, some of it's different. There have been some great things that I've seen recently. One of the things is the guy I talked about earlier, Karsten Rundquist. He does some great stuff. Another would be Just Right. He released a video on The Last Jedi today, I think, which is fantastic. He's one of the people who is more objective, but he knows his stuff. Like, he's not just saying, here's what I think about the movie, and that's a fact, and if you disagree, you're an idiot. He's saying, here's what I think about the movie, and here's quotes from books and scholars and people who know about storytelling and everything to back me up. And even then, he's not being pretentious and saying, like, and you have to agree with me because of that. He's just making a case for his opinion about the film using lots of logical, fact-based evidence. So he's great, really insightful. Trying to think. I Am That Robbie is a friend of mine, and he's Australian and does some good stuff that has, just like Karsten, gotten more personal as of late, where he's, skewed from standard video essay now to doing things of what this means to me and that kind of stuff. And then final choice, I would say, is the Royal Ocean Film Society. Have you seen them?
Yeah. I haven't watched many of his videos, but I really liked his making a case for 16 millimeter.
Oh, yeah. He does, he's another example, so many of these now, which is great, of a guy who started out kind of just every frame painting kind of imitator, and now he's grown into his own voice. And he includes just lots of really clever editing and stuff that he actually films rather than just edited footage. He does some fun creative stuff that you've maybe seen before, maybe not, kind of stuff like, stop motion animation with photos on cardboard and stuff to prove his point and whatever. And then personal videos, like there's one where he like talks about a camera that he's had since he was a kid and like all the stuff that it's seen and stuff. So I enjoy people who are like that get really touchy-feely with their movie channels. So yeah, those would be my kind of choices that I can think of off the top of my head.
Yeah, for me, I still really like Lessons from the Screenplay. I think he's one of the channels that most frequently cites scholarly books and stuff, which obviously books aren't the only criterion for what makes a movie good. But he cites these academic sources, and so he does a great job making these more objective cases for films. That said, I've actually lately been sort of straying away from movie video essays, not like any conscious decision, but just I've found myself doing this. So Austin Mcconnell is great because his topics vary. He always finds stuff that people don't necessarily know much about. Like he made a whole video about printers and how
I was just thinking about that.
So yeah, stuff like that is great. I know this guy. He was popping up in my suggested for a while, and then I finally watched one of his videos, and I just spent like the entire night just watching like a bunch of Sideways. He does music video essays.
So good. I was trying to think of a guy who I was forgetting. That was who it was. Yeah.
Yeah, I showed my friend one of his videos, and he was like, "Oh, this is so ugly. It's just white text over a black background," and it's not necessarily the most aesthetic presentation.
It's substance over style is what it is.
But yeah, the point is it's clear. His vernacular is so conversational, but still presents the ideas incredibly clearly. And even though it's white text over a black background, it still clearly presents the ideas he's talking about. And I think the music industry is a lot more elitist than the film industry, at least in analysis. And so a lot of explanations are incredibly pedantic. And I think he does a very good job just presenting these concepts in a grounded, easy to understand way. So yeah, those are my suggestions.
Yeah, totally. For those who don't know, Sideways is a channel who they talk about movie scores, and sort of that's something that I'm super passionate about. I'm sure you are to some degree as well. And he basically breaks down different motifs and scores and reoccurring themes and stuff that you may not have noticed, as well as some of the really like dense, as we've talked about, mathematical stuff in the music for film. So he's really great suggestion. I'll probably link all of these channels in like a playlist below or something if you want to check them out. So yeah. I think that's it as far as stuff to talk about. We said we were going to kind of cut it off at some point before we started just rambling about nothing.
Yeah, we covered some good ground, I think.
Yeah, I think our discussion was definitely a lot more focused this time than it was last time. So thank you guys for watching this video so much. We had a great time talking about video essays. This is obviously subject that both of us are passionate about, and that we, I wouldn't say are experts on, but that we are very familiar with because we both have made them. And so we just kind of wanted to offer up our take on this sort of trend and pattern and the growing evolution of it and the ups and downs in the past few years. So yeah, thank you for coming on so much, Taylor J. Williams, if you guys want to check him out. So
thanks for having me. Thanks for showing your subscribers that I exist.
Yeah, we can combine our sort of moderate followings into one huge following. That's what we can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for watching this video. I'm saying it again. If you guys want to check out some of the best video essays, sort of our personal selections and stuff, I'm going to include a playlist or something along those lines down below of the videos and creators that we just talked about. Yeah, thanks for checking this out. That's the third time I've said this, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.
Bye. Cool.